And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Satellite loop here showing a lot of clouds coming across south central Alaska here, kind of with a band extending on down to the south of the system right through here, slowly pulling eastward. So drying out over Kodiak, another weak system here affecting the eastern Aleutians, and a lot of clouds out over the Bering Sea with a weak low back there, another weak low towards Shemya here, and then stronger low up there over the Arctic Ocean, and a band of clouds here cutting across the eastern North Slope Brooks Range area. But pretty good conditions here. Some low clouds along the coast of the Panhandle, but interchannel seeing some sunshine. And rolling this along, this weak system here continues to pull eastward. Still some variable clouds trying to break out, but having a tough time doing that here across south central Alaska. But there are some sun breaks around, but a lot of clouds up over the remainder of the state, all the way back up to this cold front that's approaching the Arctic coast there. And system developing here, pulling some moisture up into the Alaska Peninsula now on the last frame. Another system up here over the northern Bering Sea, northern northwest Bering. Moving on to flying weather, we've got some IFR over the Brooks Range for the morning hours. Bering Sea, Norton Sound, Yukon Delta Coast, Nunivak Island, Pribilofs, all the Aleutians, IFR. Bristol Bay, southern Alaska, VFR, and some IFR due to a lot of low clouds and fog here right along the coast of the Panhandle. Kodiak, IFR, but some VFR up here to the north and northwest. And for the afternoon, a lot of VFR over the interior, just some marginal VFR now along the western Alaska range, along the western Alaska range here. We've got some marginal VFR as well as the central and western Arctic coast. IFR right along and just off the coast of the Panhandle. IFR kind of extending up into southern Cook Inlet now, Kamashack Bay, Kachemak Bay as well. It's Kodiak Island. And for Thursday morning, IFR on the increase here. Moisture streaming northeastward here with the next system pulling up into the southeastern Bering Sea there. So IFR Kodiak Island up along the western Alaska range, marginal VFR, Cook Inlet, and the western Kenai Peninsula, eastern Kenai Peninsula, say Resurrection Bay, Prince William Sound into Portage, and westward here, IFR just south of Yakutat, and now starting to deteriorate here over the Panhandle with IFR over the southern areas, but staying better up toward Lynn Canal Glacier Bay. And for Thursday afternoon, VFR a little bit there over toward Misty Fjords, maybe Petersburg, Wrangell, Juneau, Haines area, but marginal VFR elsewhere now. IFR up into the North Gulf Coast again, or staying up in there. Marginal VFR with some areas of IFR here, south central Alaska. Marginal VFR all the way up and just about to the mid-Yukon River Valley there, but east and northeast looking good. VFR through the afternoon Thursday. Same thing with Brooks Range, North Slope, and maybe the Arctic coast as well, looking VFR. IFR along the southwest coast here, back across the Pribilofs, down into the western Aleutian areas. Passes for tomorrow, Anaktuvuk and Adigan, VFR for both passes up there for the Brooks Range. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR. Windy starting out VFR, becoming marginal into the afternoon and evening. And Windy Pass VFR. Isabel VFR, Mintesta VFR, Tanita, another VFR day, as well as Portage, one more VFR day hopefully, and for Chilkoot and White, VFR as well. Freezing levels, cold upper low there over the Arctic Ocean, so we got 2,000 feet now coming down into the Chukchi Sea there, cutting across just north of Kivalina and overspreading the Arctic coast, but up to 8,000 feet here over the central and southern part of the state, as well as the Panhandle. Now out west, about 8,000 to 10,000 feet there for the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula area up toward Kodiak. And for icing, could see some considerable moderate rime icing moving into the west central interior here. And also another batch back out toward the Bering Strait and St. Lawrence Island, and another one lifting northward across the central Aleutians in the afternoon with that band across the Alaska Peninsula. And for the jet stream, here's that low coming up, and pretty good winds at 33,000 feet, about 95 knots out of the south. Still south of the eastern Aleutians, up and over this ridge here at about 65 knots across Bristol Bay. Easterly or westerlies, 90 knots for the eastern Arctic coast, light for the southeast coast and the Gulf, and for 9,000 feet, 45 knot winds for the Alaska Peninsula with this low farther to the west there, and westerly flow along the Arctic coast and northeast interior areas. Looking at 3,000 feet here, good low pulling up to the eastern Aleutians, and the strong winds associated with that beginning to affect the Alaska Peninsula, especially in the afternoon hours. Interior looking pretty light and variable. Gulf, same thing, under high pressure. Panhandle, light variable winds. And the eastern Arctic coast, some strong winds there along the central and eastern coastline, and mostly right along the coast and northward from there. Otherwise, pretty light out here over much of the central and western Bering Sea. Turbulence for tomorrow, moderate turbulence, Alaska Peninsula, right on up into Bristol Bay, and especially the north coastal areas there, Togiak, Dillingham, those areas to Cape Newenham, and also look for some moderate turbulence along the central and eastern Arctic coast.